Welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. Today is going to be an exceptionally good show because we're going to talk to somebody who just recently turned 30 and has accomplished a lot. And I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are going to really resonate with this conversation because, listen, it's all about maintaining your gear, which I found out is a military term. Our guest today, Joe, let me give you a little background. In 2014, he started a real estate company. I believe it was a RE/MAX franchise. 2016, he started a title company. 2016, again, he started a mortgage company. 2020, started a care builders at home. It's like an assisted living caregiving service. We'll dive into that. And then he expanded nationally in 2020 with his title operations. I think you have, it even looks like on your website, you might have up cleaning, like it must be some kind of cleaning service, commercial and residential, and a couple other businesses. And at the ripe age of 30, it's pretty impressive to see. And and the book he wrote, which is called Maintain Your Gear, Surefire Strategies to Dominate, Execute, and Scale in Business and Life. That stems from his military career, which he was in the Army CID, which is like special investigations type of stuff, I believe. So we're going to kind of unpack this and figure out what we can take away from this conversation and how we can apply it to whatever you're doing out there, because it's really about, I've known Joe for a couple of years now, and he's high energy, he's intense, and he's always pushing. So I'm curious on that. Is this from the military or something in childhood? So welcome to the show, Joe. How are you doing?
Yeah. Hey, Beau. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So you grew up, were you an athlete in high school and stuff, and then you decided to get in the military? Walk us through like how you became who you are today, because I think this is going to be good for people to understand.
Yeah. So I grew up, I don't have that sob story that a lot of people try to put on Instagram nowadays. I grew up super middle class, average. Dad was a cop, mom was a teacher, Irish Catholic. And everything I was doing was to be a cop. I was only going to college to be a cop. I was going to join the military because my grandpop did. I was basically just copying what I was kind of grew up around. And so growing up, I hung around with my grandpop quite a bit. I did play some sports. I did crew, basically crew all through high school would have been my biggest one. The rest were in kind of grade school. Got into powerlifting in high school. Still do that to this day, constantly hurting myself, which I love. But, I had started my first 2 years at Penn State, and I figured, well, if I'm going to join the military, that was 2011. I graduated, started in 2011 for college at Penn State, was going to go the ROTC route, be an officer. But something in me told me to enlist. And it was because both of my grandparents were, one was Korean War, had a Bronze Star with Valor, and the other one was a Marine in Vietnam. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enlist. I didn't really like school anyway. I didn't really want to be an officer. I wanted to be a grunt. I wanted to do what they did. So I enlisted in the military. Luckily, the job that I wanted anyway, or found out that I wanted once I got in, you can't be an officer anyway. So Army CID agents and military police investigators are all enlisted positions. You could be a warrant officer, but so I love that job. Plus it was, exactly in line with what I was going to do on the civilian side once I got my bachelor's degree. So fast forward to 2015, I guess December or so, 2015, I had a start date for Philly PD of my birthday, which was December 30th. And literally a week before I graduate, they removed the requirement to have a bachelor's degree to be a cop. And I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like, I could have been a cop this whole time. So, and about 6 months prior to that, I had started training this guy and his wife while I was working at LA Fitness. I did a lot of things at once. And he was a realtor. And he was like, oh, you should get your real estate license and you can have a Mercedes too. You know, that normal pitch, like, this is so easy, join my team. So in a very short period, and before starting with Philadelphia Police, I was able to make like $75,000, which, 1099, not really knowing what that was at the time, thinking it was kind of tax-free, was huge. And my family, my dad specifically, was like, why would you be a cop then? Like you're gonna have to work all year to make that. You did this in half that time. Try it out. You could be a cop whenever. And I was like, all right, that's a good point. So I jumped into real estate feet first. I guess I would say I'm a good salesperson, but I didn't enjoy that side of it, showing houses. And I just kind of fell in love with I joined a really large brokerage. It was Keller Williams, and they had mortgage, title, real estate, insurance. And I was like, oh my God, that's where the money is. And so I figured out very quickly that I wanted to open my own real estate company. So 2016 or so, I believe, I bought my first franchise. I always think I've been doing this longer than I have, but it was actually 2016. I bought my first franchise. I opened in Plymouth Meeting, horrible location in an office building. Learned my lesson there, switched to another office building because I didn't learn my lesson right away. And then finally ended up in Philadelphia in the Manayunk section. And from there, that's where things really took off. I mean, we needed saturation. We were a new brokerage. I didn't have any money. And we grew from 0 to, probably 5 to about 80 agents in a period of 6 months. It was ridiculous. They were all new agents. There was, wasn't a lot of volume. It was tough. Fast forward a year, we end up acquiring RE/MAX affiliates, which at the time is the largest RE/MAX in Philadelphia. The guy was retiring. That really put us on the map. That took us to the 200 agent mark. We're sitting around 300 agents now. But the one thing that was unique, and I did this out of fear, was unlike most brokers who have a title JV that someone else services, when I started my mortgage and title company, we didn't even have enough volume to supply them. So I built the retail arm, which I didn't know anything about mortgage or title when I did this, but I hired business development people, and I brought people in to go grow those. But we also started going to other real estate brokers, who some would call competition, I call opportunities. And we would just go to them and say, hey, your current company sucks. Let us do it for you. We don't charge management fees. A lot of that was out of desperation. And I was like, shit, if RE/MAX doesn't work, I need something to work. So we worked every angle at once, and we got lucky. Mortgage, title, and real estate all took off. And, we started making a lot of money. COVID was great for us. And in 2020, just to tie in where healthcare came from, I had always had this, in 2018, I learned about seller financing, and I bought 80 units that way in Pittsburgh, which I think you might have actually tried to help us refi at one point. But we ended up selling that for 3 times what we bought it for. And I had no cash out of pocket. I actually got paid $100,000 to do that deal. So I was like, man, I could replicate this, in the right conditions. Well, COVID turned out to be the right conditions, and people in the home healthcare business, which, think family caregivers, kind of keeping people in the home type of business, they got hurt because government regulations hurt them for sure. But what hurt them more than anything was people were afraid to have their parents in nursing homes, or to have caregivers coming into their home, because sometimes they treat multiple patients. So this lady calls me in Lake Jackson, Texas, and she said, I don't want this thing anymore. I'm losing everything. I'm a retired nurse. I just was doing this for fun. Basically, come take it. So I tried to line up SBA financing. Horrible. Falls through. The day we're supposed to settle, of course. That seems to be how the SBA works. And so we on the plane, we're already on the plane, and I don't even tell my investor, because I'm like so nervous, and I'm like, man, we're going down here and we can't even settle. And on the plane, in a period of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I negotiated seller financing. We landed, did the deal. The owner of Care Builders at Home, the franchisor, really liked us. And a lot of their franchisees were older. So basically from I guess we settled on that probably July of 2020, but it started in April. From that point till now, we ended up building an $18 million home care company, almost exclusively with seller financing, some cash, averaging like a multiple of 1 to 2 times EBITDA, which is amazing. And then we just actually raised a fund with Christian Mack is actually one of the GPs, the Terra Rosa family office. And And so we're raising 30 million there. We have a significant amount committed, probably 15 million. And I think we're going to have a debt partner, BMO Bank. So the goal is we're contributing our whole current business, which we believe to be valued at about 9-10 million now, with revenues at 18 million. And so we're going to contribute that to the business, which is unique, and then go out there, raise 30 million, and hopefully sell this thing for 150 million within 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Care Builders at Home franchise, how many total units do they have out there? Is this tell me a little bit about this franchise, because we do a lot of stuff on franchises and just never heard of them yet, and interested in, because we have a lot of, I think At Home Care is like just one of the biggest emerging franchises, businesses to be in, obviously. So
yeah,
what do you like about them?
Yeah, it's what we like about the industry. It's recession proof, and we have both franchise and non-franchise locations. Strategically, I think we are working on acquiring our franchisor. We have to. And Care Builders at Home, I wouldn't say there's anything like we don't love necessarily the franchise. What we loved was the fact that they were smaller. They actually handle all of our payroll, which was unique. So when we were starting out, they took on the payroll of the caregivers, or at least, yeah, they took on the payroll of the caregivers. So that was super helpful. A lot of franchises, they just kind of give you a logo and some kind of templated or basic marketing material and say, here you go, pay us 10%. Care Builders provides a lot for that. Actually, I think we pay them 8% royalty. But for that, they're covering all our payroll. They handled all our ERTC credits. Like, there's a lot of value add there. And they also own ATC, which is a staffing company for doctors and nurses. So that's how they started. They grew into this. And a lot of their franchisees are just older guys and ladies that have been in the ATC side of the business, the staffing side, for a long time. And they're of retirement age. Well, beyond retirement age in a lot of cases, including the owners of the franchise. And so we just saw that as a huge opportunity. And I ended up, a friend of mine was the CEO of the Jewish Federation, specifically their non-medical home care division in Philly. And when I bought the home care company, I reached out to him and I said, this is going to be the dumbest thing you ever heard. I don't know if we're in the same business or not. He's like, you bought a business, you don't know what you do? And I was like, yeah, well, the cash flow was good. And to this day, I always joke that I don't know if we bill Medicare or Medicaid, but we definitely make money. And so he was, at that time, the CEO of the Jewish Federation. He's now the chief growth officer for Amerivest, or AmeriHealth. They're like a couple $100 million company based in Philly. So he runs the operation for us day to day. He is the industry expert. He's one of our partners. So we're in good hands there. So he knows who we bill.
Yeah. So Care Builders at Home franchise, it's non-skilled care, or what kind of care do you provide?
Yeah, it's non-skilled, private pay, and Medicaid or Medicare, depending on where you are. So we like the private pay side of the business, but it's, unskilled. A lot of what we do is, think we're so non-medical that we're not even allowed to give medication. Like, unless it's pre-packaged, we can hand it off to somebody. But think like kind of preventing that person from falling, making sure they shower, making sure they eat, making sure their pre-packaged pills are taken, making sure they get to the doctors, they go out for a walk. That type of stuff that, families can't really, they might be able to afford it, but they don't have the time to provide for their parents in a lot of cases.
Is this usually like a certain amount of hours per day, and then like, or is it 24/7? Somebody's in
a lot of times it's 24/7. And preferably, the problem with the medical side of the business is once you're on the medical side, one, it's expensive. Two, it usually means that you're not far off from respite care. So they're very, this sounds horrible, but they won't be in our pipeline very long. Whereas our family caregivers, a lot of times they're taking care of grandmom. They're within the house. It's like a daughter taking care of the mother, or a granddaughter. So that's what we have a lot of success with. We also have the VA. The VA is actually an incredible payer. They are doing a great job with veterans, which is contrary to what a lot of times you hear. It's the Medicare family caregiver business you got to watch out for. That's why to hedge our risk, we focus heavily on VA and private pay, because it's the government. They can claw back whatever they want at any time, and they're happy to do it, even if it's their mistake.
So if I were to replicate what you did, essentially you'd find somebody who wants to retire and sell, get seller finance, walk in with very little money out of pocket, and take over the business. What skill sets would somebody need to do one of these, like, in the beginning? Because how does Care Builders at Home franchise, like, I think the tough part probably is the staffing and finding that good workforce.
That is the only problem with our business. And honestly, long term, I don't know how you solve it, because we have no shortage of cases. If we open the floodgates, we can't, because there's not enough people. If we open the floodgates, we could 3-4 times our volume. The government has plenty of leads for you. They give the leads out. They tell you who needs care. The problem is getting people to work, dependable people. And then the other problem, which is kind of ironic based on some of the political stuff that's thrown around, but minimum wage. They talk about increasing minimum wage, but the reimbursement rates aren't even at minimum wage sometimes. So, we may get on a Medicare case, we may be paid $17 an hour. We got to pay the caregiver $12. How the hell do we run the company based on that? And so there are larger companies that have come into the space. They rely heavily on Medicare or the family caregiver business, which there can be very easily fraud there. And they'll offer people a nickel, a quarter more, and they'll leave for that. So that's pretty tough. That creates a lot of churn. But just overall, if we had more caregivers, we would have as many cases as we could possibly handle.
How would I know? Like, I think states would differ, but like, what would be the requirements for a caregiver? Do they need special licensing? Is it state by state, or is it anybody could be a caregiver?
I think anybody could be a caregiver. There's not really any training. What you'll find for insurance purposes is that a lot of companies do offer training, like, the type of training that we have to offer. I guess we have to give, and I don't know that this is a law, but like getting people out of bed, helping them into the shower, the proper way to do that without hurting the employee, and having 2 people fall, basically. So that's the type of stuff we have to, and CPR. So outside of that, there's not much we have to do. Every state is different. Like, Texas and Pennsylvania, where we ended up buying most of our locations, are 2 of the best markets. One of the markets that you would stay away from, which in mortgage you would say stay away from New York and California, and same with title. On the real estate or on the home care side, New Jersey is a nightmare. So for all those same services that we offer in Pennsylvania without having any medical supervision, you need a medical professional to supervise and visit the patients in New Jersey. And that's just like, and weekly. So it's like, that's impossible. You'd have to have multiple RNs on staff and or doctors or nurse practitioners, and that's just going to become a fortune. So a lot of people, there's certain states where their regulations are preventing companies from coming in and providing these services.
And then sometimes the caregivers are like driving the patient or the client to appointments and stuff. So obviously they would probably make sure you have certain insurance coverage on your vehicles and so forth. And then they get some kind of reimbursement for gas and mileage.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's pretty cool. I definitely am interested in that business. I think that the non-skill care, because I don't want to deal with, having to deal with skilled, taking care of patients from that capacity. So right. let's walk in, like, what's your cleaning business called?
Yeah. So what's starting to happen, I'll tell you how the cleaning business came about.
You're building a platform.
People are coming to us and saying, I need your help. I read your book and I can't scale. And so this cleaning company, and they're actually cleaning my house right now. It's funny. This cleaning company came to us, and she was a friend of mine for a long time. Our real estate office sends them referrals. And she said, I need I don't have payroll. I don't understand the citizenship requirements of payroll and all that stuff. And I don't have insurance. I don't have any marketing. I don't have any systems. I don't have a CRM. And she shows me this, like, basically her Google Calendar. And I was like, look, I'm happy to, like, I will just help you build this. I'll just build it in all your systems. Give me like 3 weeks. I have the staff. I'll build it out for you. And whatever you think that's worth. So within 3 weeks, we had turned it into a real company, a logo, a website, a CRM, payroll set up, formalized. And she basically reached out and said, I don't want to do this without you. Plus it kind of makes sense. I mean, because we do title joint ventures and mortgage joint ventures, we're in Keller Williams offices, we're in developers, we're in developments, new construction developments, we're in a couple law firms. So because we do that, we always have a need for cleaning services, and it's a good synergy. So she offered us 50% of the business. And I was like, I don't want to take advantage of you. I don't want you to and she was like, no, I want to give you this. I think it makes sense. I know you can take our business to the next level. And so we've owned that now for about 3 months. And we did just that. I mean, the first 3 weeks were systems, and it was a lot of work, but now it's just marketing. We got her to stop cleaning. Her only job is to staff, because she's very well connected in the Brazilian community. So she handles staffing for us. And then she goes out there to events and markets with our other business development people. So she goes to events with our recruiters and our title sales people. And it's just a really good synergy and a good opportunity.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I know, it's amazing when you look at any kind of business. I was just talking to a guy who has a tree trimming business, and he bought an existing tree trim business. I think he bought it for $4.2 million. It was very successful, like a 30-year business. And then he said within the first 3 years, he took it to $6.5 million in revenue. He said this year he's on pace to do $10 million, and then he can get some kind of contract where he can get government contracts now, and that's going to open it up to even like then he's going to. And he says he'll open a new territory. It costs him $250,000 for the tree trimming equipment, and then the first year he'll do $750,000 for that new. It's pretty amazing. But you need the systems. Like, most people don't have this idea on how to create the systems and to grow, and they think too small, right? And so let's kind of dive into like why you wrote the book, and let's talk about that.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Beau Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again.
So I wrote the book because I always been kind of disinterested in social media. So I try to go on podcasts, or I try to, run training events for the company and things like that. And my recruiters kept telling me, like, we get it. You don't want to be the face. You don't want to be this guy on social media, but people do want to hear your story, and people want to hear how you became successful, and they want to know about the broker that they're working for, specifically on the real estate side. And the book has opened a lot of doors. I mean, when I send a book to a broker or that we want to partner with, or an agent, or a banker that we're trying to get a loan from, it makes a huge difference. It's published by Simon & Schuster. It adds instant credibility. But the real reason that I did that, and I don't have any courses to sell, there's nothing they can buy. Honestly, I keep getting yelled at by Simon & Schuster for giving the book out for free, because it's not the point for me. That's not the goal. If we do business together someday, great. But the idea was that I had learned a lot of lessons in the military, and I didn't, come up from anything. It was just normal background, and I did it all myself. And so the point of the book was really to say, this is how I did what I did. This is how seller finance deals are structured. This is how I bought my companies. These are the people I've been connected with. I write a little bit about GoBundance. I write a little bit about R360, which I'm the youngest partner in that and member of R360 now. But really the title, and I think the most important thing about business, because the only business I knew anything about getting into was real estate. Mortgage, title, I'm still not licensed. I couldn't originate a mortgage right now. I'm not allowed. But we own a mortgage company. We own a title company. We're in the healthcare space. We have over, 40 private equity investments now. None of these businesses are anything I know anything about. And I think that's what stops people a lot. They don't think they have enough money. They think they need a business plan. They think they need to know all these things. And that's just frankly not true. You just need to take action. So the title of the book, Maintain Your Gear, was a saying that I constantly heard in the military. It was like, maintain, every time you screw it up, maintain your gear. What did I say? And what maintaining your gear is all about is that at every level of a military organization, from human resources to the cook to whatever, right? We're all soldiers first. And so having your ammo squared away, having your gear squared away, having your rifle cleaned, having your first aid kit, having tourniquets, knowing how to operate all of those things, maintaining your gear, understanding that at every level of the team can't function from the lowest ranking guy to the highest guy. If any one of them is not squared away, if any one of them is missing a piece of equipment, you might not be able to save somebody's life. It might be you and your commander that gets shot, and now you're there without your first aid kit, and you can't put a tourniquet on. Great, you didn't maintain your gear and someone died. So obviously an extreme example, but that's how it is in business, right? The janitors are truly, especially in real estate, just as important as the title processors, because every piece works together hand in hand. And it's important that every member of the team really understands how important their function is, and how that helps the team grow and operate day to day.
Awesome. You have so much going on. What are you most excited about right now? Like, what really gets you going?
Well, so prior to May, I would have said the healthcare fund, which, yes, the healthcare fund is an opportunity. And I handle most of the acquisitions. That's kind of my role in the organization, and then obviously fundraising. And so that's really exciting. We still have room to go. We still have money to raise there. I'm impacting a lot of people with the book, and that just got launched on January, but I'm constantly getting people reaching out to me from high school, from groups I've been in the past. Like in grade school, I was in Civil Air Patrol, like junior ROTC kind of. People are reaching out to me from there. It was an Amazon bestseller at one point, which was cool for a couple of days. So that's awesome. But what's happening because of the interest rate increase, and because overall real estate volume across all our partnerships, we have about 19 title companies and mortgage companies now with brokers and developers. Because their volume is down 20 and 30%, they're starting to reach out to us and say, hey, we're kind of reconsidering our existing title partnership, or looking to add one. And so the floodgates have been opened, and we're working with some of the largest brokers in the country now, a few from GoBundance, a few from all over the place, all over the country, and they want to put ancillary services in-house. So we'll go into a brokerage. We don't charge any management fees. We give them 49% ownership. Usually they'll kick off 20% for their agents to be shareholders. And then we just run a profitable mortgage and title company. No management fees, none of that stuff. And for the mortgage side, we structure it as a brokerage, not a full correspondent lender, although we are from the parent company if we need to be. But title is super profitable. Mortgage is a little more complex. And so there's, we work with brokers that are doing, say, 100 million in volume at the minimum. Is a pretty good ballpark to net $1 million to the joint venture after expenses. So we always like to say on mortgage, 60 million can get them $1 million, and 100 million on title can get them $1 million. So it's fun. There's so much opportunity right now for that. And it's a structure that, prior to rates going up, real estate brokers have kind of, blown us off. They didn't need it. right? A lot of them are busy selling their own real estate. They don't have time to figure it out. And now they're looking at the numbers saying, shit, our volume's down. You take 30% off the top of a real estate brokerage that was already operating at almost no margin, and they're hurting.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, a lot of just the agents and mortgage professionals, right? Like especially mortgage. I mean, well, both. I mean, some areas it's down 40%, right? So like they were living on a high horse for so many years where they were just like crushing it. Like even people that didn't do any marketing were making a couple $100,000 a year. And I think this is when they really need to maintain their gear, maintain your gear, right? Like
sure.
this is going to like cause some people to get out of the business. But what I like what you're doing is you're constantly like things that just come natural. Like, well, we can do this platform. We can do like, and you're seeing like all these things kind of work hand in hand. I mean, probably like the home healthcare or the home care business. A lot of those people need house cleaning. Like it just all this stuff. A lot of those people need to eventually sell their properties. A lot of them need to finance and get reverse mortgages.
Sure.
And so you're kind of solving problems as they come. And I think the difference is that like you just go for it, and you just say to yourself, listen, I don't know everything, but what I do know is that I'm going to maintain my gear, and I'm going to just work through anything that comes up. Because obviously there's a lot of problems as you're starting and growing these businesses. Because I'm just in the back of my mind right now, I'm thinking, you come into this care builder place, you don't know what you're doing in the beginning, and now you own a lot of them. And you're bringing in a couple $100,000 a week of revenue in these companies now, so it's quite significant. And I think most of these businesses now, like the title, the mortgage, the real estate, the care builder, I mean, they're worth millions of dollars, right? Like the value of your businesses is millions and millions of dollars. And just to do that at 30 years old, I think people watching this are like, man, like they almost feel like it's unattainable. But listen, Joe's a normal guy that just goes after it and thinks big, right? And you've prepared yourself, and you're not afraid. I think is you might have limiting beliefs, but you sure as heck don't seem like you do, right? And so that's the difference between people that get to that really kind of like the wow, what I call the wow level. Like, wow, like how does this guy do it? Like, like
right.
he's doing all these big things. But you're a normal guy, right? And they're just like these factors. But I think anybody watching this, guys, you don't need to necessarily be a whale. I call Joe he's a whale. Not everybody's going to be a whale out there, and you don't need to be. But what if you had one business, right? What if you had a care franchise, right? And that one franchise alone could make you several $100,000 a year. What's your advice for somebody out there that's watching this right now, and like maybe they're in their mid or late 30s or in their 40s, and they're like, man, this guy's I could never be this guy. What's your advice to change the mindset to get them thinking positively?
There's a lot of guys who have been both partners of mine and just maybe agents of ours, and we all started at kind of similar ages and similar paths, and following my lead and kind of doing what I did, I think people are very, very worried about perspective. Maybe it's that they don't want to fail. And I think that's part of it. But I think part of it is that they're more worried about how people see them. So they spend a lot of time on social media. I mean, I hate walking through the office sometimes and seeing people like scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, what the hell are you? Like, I don't have any social media on my phone on purpose. And I think people are more worried about posting the success they had, or maybe inflating the success they've had and putting it online. I spend all of my money on assets. I have a massive art collection now. Like, I have nothing fancy though. Like, I drive a Lincoln, like an old man. I don't have a fancy watch. I don't want to have any of those things. My gym clothes are 7 years old. My shoes are old and they got mud all over them. Like, I'm not worried about how I look. I don't really give a shit about how other people see me. And I think when people do get to know me, what they like is that what you see is what you get, that old saying. And I will help people as long as they are willing to help themselves. And I think with people, it's like, kind of stop. I would say, like, stop spreadsheeting it. Like, if you have an idea, take freaking action on it, right? It's amazing how many companies you see people out there like raising money, and it's like, hell is going to give you money if you didn't even have what it takes to start this business on your own? Like, the people that learn business bootstrap a business from absolutely nothing. You need to get punched in the face before you start asking people for money. And the only way to really learn business is to get in there, make mistakes, figure out payroll on your own, have a shortage and not be able to make payroll. Like, those are all the experiences that you need to have as a new entrepreneur that I've had multiple times where we can't make payroll. How the hell are we going to figure this out? And it's like due Monday and you need 60 grand. Those things happen. And I think that's the best way to learn, and it's exciting. And I think you just have to jump in, and you have to know where you want to be, and you have to really dangle a big carrot out there. And so for me, my goals kind of that I recite in my head every single day. I don't maybe read them as much as I should, but I actually carry this around. So these are all my goal sheets that I used to write down since 2017. And I still carry them every day. And every goal that I've ever put on this, I've exceeded. And so it means that I haven't been setting my goals big enough. So I think it's important to know where you want to go, because every single day you're going to take action to do that if you remind yourself what it is you want to do. And so now I say things like, I want to have a $150 million company. Maybe we're at 45, 50 million now. I want to have 5 million in free cash flow every year. I want to have one of those 50-foot catamarans with a lounge net. I'd love to have that one day. I'm not going to do it now. I'd love to have the Rolls Royce. Could I add it to my monthly expenses? Sure, that would be stupid, because now that's 60,000 less I could put into a deal, And so that's how I operate. I'm constantly trying to just stack assets, add businesses, buy assets with equity. And, I don't focus so much on, I get my cash flow from my operating businesses. From everything else, I'm just trying to add equity. I might do a real estate deal, 100% seller finance, and maybe there's not a lot of cash flow there because I paid full price, but it didn't cost me anything and it pays for itself. I think like that. And I know in a few years I can refi and I just keep running strong operating businesses in the meantime. And I can only do so much. So we have those 4 core operating businesses. So I'll go out there and invest in people's funds. That's how I met Christian Mack. I invested in his tech fund. So my best piece of advice is, whatever it is, at whatever scale, at whatever level it is, could even be the gym. Just get off your ass. Stop saying Monday. Stop saying, I need to get a trainer. I need to get this. No, you don't. All that shit's available on YouTube. There's not one piece of advice that I've ever had to pay for. There's a million Grant Cardone videos. All the motivation you need is out there. So just take action and make sure you square yourself away while you're doing it.
Awesome. Well, this was one heck of an episode. I think this is why I'd like to do it, because I get motivated. That's why I do this podcast, because I bring on guys like you, and I'm listening, and I'm getting fired up, and I'm like, man, this is a great way to start a Friday morning for me. I'm like, man, this is great. Because I'm looking at you. I'm 15 years older. I'm like, man, if this kid's doing it, right? If this kid has no fear, then I should have no fear about anything I do, right? I'm overthinking everything in my life. And there's people like me who know a lot and they overthink things. And they're like, yeah, I take action, but I could just go in and not. And that's one thing I've lost a little bit in my older years. I got a little bit more because I was around with the downturn, right? I got my ass handed to me in the 2007-8 downturn in real estate, right? And I always carry that baggage with me, and I'm constantly working. I just hired a coach because excuse my French. I'm like, I need to figure this out. So I got a referral from somebody actually in GoBundance. I have this coach named Phil. He's 84 years old. He's an amazing coach, and I love being coached. I think you got to stay coachable. You got to get yourself around the right people. And you got to constantly push, right? And you can't what you're doing. No social media. Who cares? I don't care what the Joneses are doing over there. Stay focused on the goals, stack assets, accumulate, get your cash flow going. And if more people were like that, they wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what we got to figure out in this world. Because if you don't do anything, your life's not going to get any cheaper. I feel bad for these people that are hourly. I feel really bad for hourly workers. I'm like, you have to create your own businesses, or you have to be on the right team where they give you some stake in the deal and they encourage you to grow. If not, you're going to be you'll be working the rest of your life for somebody
True.
else. Yeah. Well, anyways,
Very true.
So I would suggest everybody go out and maintain your gear, surefire strategies to dominate, execute, and scale in business and life. I think this will give you a better perspective. You can find Joe's website and all that good stuff. Is there a place you want them to go, or they could get the book from the link from the website?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. It's on Audible, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. It's everywhere. And if they want to reach out to me, Joe at thesurefiregroup.com. Happy to chat, and get together. And Beau, I just want to say huge props to you for helping me with financing over the years. And guys, Beau is the type of lender that you have to have in your corner. And I guess if you're listening to this, you already know him probably from that, but just a zero bullshit guy. Like, he either knows where to put it or he doesn't, and he doesn't waste your time. And every single loan that he has said, hey, talk to this person, they've gotten it done. So just thank you for that, because it saved me a lot of time and a lot of heartache.
You're welcome. Well, thanks, everybody. This was another amazing interview. I can't wait till this comes live in the next few days. And Joe, really appreciate you coming on and sharing so much knowledge with us. And at the end of the day, really motivating me to to really spark that fire inside of me and go, yeah, I like that. That's why you got to get around the right people and join groups like you're in R360 now, which is a huge group. You're the youngest member.
Youngest
right?
partner.
Youngest
There's actually
partner.
a story about that in my book.
Okay, I'm going to read that because I want to learn more about that and understand it. But that's amazing. So, guys, definitely go out and get the book. And at anything, I hope when you watch this or listen to this when it airs, that you guys get the fire in your belly, because like every day, Joe could probably just sit back and relax and not do anything anymore, but he's not going to do that. He's going to grow, several $100 million business, maybe even $1 billion or $2 billion business. Who knows, right? So just go out and make it happen. And thanks for watching, guys. Hey guys, Beau Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.